Okay, so I think I'm sharing my screen. Does it does it
Yes.
does it look
Yes.
great to you?
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
put it in the. Okay. Does this look like it should look to you?
Yes, it's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So feel free to stop me at any time, but just notice that I can't see you anymore because it's in full presentation mode. So you might have to break in if you would like to stop and talk or ask questions, if that's okay. So thank you so much for inviting me, by the way, to come and talk to the Gen AI Club. It's funny, we have a Gen AI Club at NIH that spans program people, intramural researchers, our review staff, the CSR review staff, as well as our IT staff. So it's huge, and it's really fun to see these clubs popping up everywhere. It's clearly of interest. So, not knowing too much about what you might be interested in, I have a lot of things I can talk about. We don't have to get to everything. We can, stop at any time. But I thought I would just share a little bit about what's happening in AI. What are we doing in AI? We have a lot of research portfolio that covers AI, but Gen AI is relatively new. So I'll just briefly talk a little bit about the Gen AI work. I'll talk about the AI infrastructure that we have at NIH, our interagency efforts because we do collaborate across the federal government, policy and guidance that might be of interest as well. And then finally, if there's time and interest, maybe some future thinking. And I'd love to hear what you're thinking about in Gen AI as well, because it certainly is a hot topic, as you can imagine. This is from April, and I thought it may be of interest, and you may also know about it, the AIM program, the AI Marvel program. It's a knowledge-driven AI system for diagnosing Mendelian disorders. These are rare genetic disorders. It is a lot of work for clinicians to basically curate the data and find the rare diseases. We're looking for variants. This is not easy. So this is it's a large language model that's a classifier. It's trained over about 3.5 million variants from thousands of diagnosed known diseases, and it incorporates that learning along with expert engineering features into the training to help make decisions about what might be a potential molecular diagnosis. So that's just one thing that's come out. It's come out in the New England Journal of Medicine AI, which is actually a neat journal to read. But there's been a lot of new things as well. Like just maybe 2 weeks ago, Dave Baker published in Nature Biotech on a multi-state functional protein design algorithm for sequence-based diffusion. So that's like, the amino acid chains looking for diffusion in that space. It's based on Rosetta Fold. We've done diffusion in not in sequence space, but in, molecular space. And now we're starting to look at programs and research that's looking at diffusion AI in sequence space, which I thought was pretty interesting. So another activity that you're probably familiar with as well is the work of Google. In June, they put out the personal health large language model. It's a version in Gemini. It's really fine-tuning on a number of interesting modalities, such as, your Fitbit watches, professional examinations, patient-reported outcomes, do you feel healthy, for example, as well as other key variables that we've been collecting for a while. And so the idea here is that, you can use your smartwatches to monitor your heart rate. This will be integrated into the large language model and become much more of a personal language model for health. They're hoping that they can answer questions and make predictions about health and fitness. So I haven't seen any outcomes yet. This just came out in June, but it is kind of interesting to see where the health in Google and AWS and Microsoft Azure spaces are evolving. What I want to talk about a little bit is some of the work that's happening in generative AI to develop new drugs and new treatments. And what I'm going to focus on is idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. It's about middle down there in this graph. These are generally how AI is helping us develop new drugs and new treatments. Idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis was a target for a small company called In Silico Medicine. And what they've done is that they did it basically an end-to-end generative AI development of a particular potential drug target. So it would be the world's first anti-fibrotic small molecule inhibitor that's discovered and designed completely by generative AI. And what's really interesting is that it took about 18 months for this from start to phase 1 clinical trials. And that's, in my world, that is really, really fast. It's sometimes many, many years to go from initial discovery to phase 1. They're now in phase 2 clinical trials in the US and in China. This started in 2023. This is a huge impact in the field of drug development. And so there are now potentially 30 new programs that are in the pipeline for other diseases with In Silico. And I think that points to a big impact for generative AI in the future. But, not everything is all good, and there's been some really interesting papers out. Some of them are still in bioRxiv that sort of point to what you might have known, which is that, the concept of the butterfly effect, which is if there's a small perturbation in the data, the small data drift, that change in the initial condition can have significant impact on the outcomes. And so small biases in the data or small deviations in training or the shifts really do lead to pronounced and potentially impactful and unfair results. And where it's really impactful is for marginalized groups, which is one of my focuses. And that's actually how I met Sanella, is through the Aim Ahead program. This is published in Machine Learning with Applications and reinforced a little bit by Alex Wu and coworkers who found that low-level features that are detected early on in pre-training essentially impact the further performance and underscore, what happens in the layer-by-layer development of the training models. And so it's like in my field, we would call that early convergence, and that is, they're starting to notice this as well in the development of generative AI. So it's something that I'm very interested in following up on, is this sort of perturbative effect of start data or algorithm development. Okay, so that's what's happening in the world, but I just want to level set because I'm not entirely sure how familiar everybody is with NIH. So we are 27 institutes, centers, and offices. We have a yearly budget. In FY23, it was $48 billion. That was flat in FY24, so the same holds true. It probably will be flat in FY25. 83% of all of our funding goes out to you guys and others in the what we call extramural world, that is institute centers, medical colleges, small companies, for competitive research grants. And we're supporting about 300,000 researchers in over 2,500 different institutions, universities, and schools. There's about little less than 20% of our funding is in the intramural program. So we have intramural researchers who do research on our campus in Bethesda or down in North Carolina. You can see all of our institute centers and offices in this figure. I'm in the office of the director, so I'm in the big blue box, but there are lots of offices. The three ones at the bottom do not make awards. They're the clinical center, so incredibly large inpatient hospital for clinical research. The Center for Information Technology, that's the folks who make all the enterprise IT work for NIH. I'll talk about them in a moment. And then the Center for Scientific Review. What do? I sit in the office of the director. Like all of our offices and the director, we coordinate and we catalyze and we help propel, in my case, data science and AI across our 27 institute centers and offices. I have a budget of $135 million. About 80% of that goes back and is reinvested in the institutes at NIH to enhance their data science capabilities. But there are some activities that I fund directly through my office, and all of them support our vision to create a modernized and integrated biomedical data ecosystem, and at the same time, enhancing our workforce so that it is diverse and talented and well supported in the data and AI sciences. And then I build strategic partnerships. You're going to see some of those partnerships today. Here's what we spend on AI. I only have data for FY23 because we just finished on Monday FY24. But in FY23, we spent nearly $300 million in artificial intelligence AI. That includes generative AI as well as machine learning and classifiers. You can see the way that it's broken down in terms of research projects. What I want to highlight is that the figure starts at 2019, but we've been supporting AI for generations, probably at least 40 years, back in the old machine learning days, primarily at NLM. It's just that we just started cataloging and curating our funding data in 2019. So that's why the figure starts there. The other thing you'll notice is that there's a steep upward trend. I anticipate that that will grow and grow, especially with support from Congress with bills like the Health AI Act bill. Okay, so we are doing generative AI at NIH, both for our own staff and for the research community. So what are we doing? We're kind of new to the game. I will be honest that, we love ChatGPT, we love Bard, we love all the things that are out there, but we can't use those as a federal employee. We have to work in secure spaces when we're doing our programmatic work. Researchers have a little more flexibility, but federal program staff do not. And so we are generating secure enclaves to provide tools like ChatGPT. We have an enterprise version of ChatGPT. We have other versions as well. NIAID, this is just one example that they do have tools for us to use. They can summarize meeting minutes. They can summarize reports and documents, and they create PowerPoint. So they're very basic tools, but at least we do have this. We are starting to pilot the use of generative AI in the evaluation of data management and sharing plans. Researchers are required to submit a data management and sharing plan when they submit an application to NIH. These plans can be extensive. They can be a couple pages, fairly detailed. We're using Gen AI to evaluate these plans and help us understand strengths and weaknesses of the plans based on what is in the application and what we know to happen in the data sharing world. So I'm excited to be a sponsor of this work and to find ways in which we can use generative AI in order to help our own business practices at NIH. We have a lot of work to do. With $300 million in AI, I think we're just starting to get to the tip of the iceberg of all of the research that we can do with generative AI. We lack sometimes resources and data. We want data that's relevant for decision making, particularly for individual patients and in real time. I'll talk about that at the very end. We want data to drive our innovation, our technologies, and we want to make sure that when we have data, they are not biased. We want to include rural, elderly, young, and underserved populations, especially those with health disparities. We want to engage people to earn their trust in our data enterprise systems. And we really do want to facilitate an optimal and ethical use of AI. This is in the AI executive order. Let me tell you about some of the things that are happening in the intramural community. And this is a partnership between intramural and researchers and small businesses. This is a collaboratory. This is sponsored by the Aging Institute. They want to advance AI in collaboration with technology and tools that can help caregiver support, help people age in place, help end-of-life care. They want to integrate Gen AI with robotics, with visual reality, with wearable sensors. So this is a really great program, especially if you're interested in that integration of AI and technology. Let me just show you one example of some of the things that they're doing in the Asian Institute. And this is with a small company. It's called Well Said. They were funded through this initiative. They wanted to provide a conversational Gen AI chatbot that would help predict if folks are having some cognitive decline. So early on, when you start to have dementia, your speech patterns change. And so they really wanted to see if they could do something that would be a sort of conversational chatbot that would have the ability to detect this. So this is just one project that reflects the scalability approach to detecting early Alzheimer's and other dementia-related diseases. We know that we have limitations that we do need to address: bias, privacy, security, complexity of data. That was one modality of data that's being used in the example that I gave with Well Said. It's voice recognition. It's understanding patterns of speech and understanding those over the course of time, because you have to detect how people's gait and speech changes. But there's a little complexity in scientific data, and something that you're probably interested in, as I am, multimodal AI. So we want to really capture that complexity of scientific data. We want to also look at validation and uncertainty quantification. There's a whole field of science in uncertainty quantification that could be brought into AI. Finally, the ethical and responsible use of AI and data. So we've been exploring the opportunities that multimodal AI may have. We want to really think about ways in which we can bring together different data, as well as different researchers in this space. If you go to any AI conference, like half of the sessions at least are going to be on multimodal AI. But we feel that biomedical research and biomedical science is rich in modalities of data. And we want to encourage the development of new language models and new generative AI capabilities with multimodal AI. So that's exactly what we've been doing this past year. We started with a small pilot. This is sponsored through my program. It is an ethical multimodal AI program. We're just starting to make the awards now to demonstrate how we can approach multimodal AI from a health sector, and at the same time combine the concepts of ethics into the development of the algorithms. We're focusing on systems level challenges. The program sponsors multidisciplinary and multi-sector teams, so it's not one PI. We're taking an approach of co-design. Coming from a computer science background, co-design is a really wonderful way to engage end users as you're designing algorithms and models. So community and stakeholder engagement is really important in this program, as it is in many of the programs my office sponsors. What do we hope to get out of this? We really want to see systems level biomedical research using new multimodal AI technologies and techniques, and at the same time help us elucidate some of the risks and challenges, particularly in ethical use. And then we want to continue once we have really understood the impact and the interest of multimodal AI in health. By the way, I just want to point out that the slide that I'm showing you, it's a beautiful slide. It was made by Eric Topol. He published this figure in 2022, just noting that there, by thinking about multimodal AI and all the different modalities, there's a whole host of opportunities, everything from precision health to digital twinning, and most of these things on my right-hand side of this slide are of high interest to NIH. You may have heard of the Bridge to AI program. This is a program that's been instantiated, I believe, in 2020. It is a program that came out of the advisory council to the director to generate flagship AI and ML ready data sets that would address grand challenges. So the 4 grand challenges are clinical care, precision public health, again, voice as a biomarker, very similar to the Well Said program I just showed you. Cellular to geneticist, which is understanding how we can go from an unhealthy state to a healthy state, and really what does that look like? And then functional genomics. So these are the 4 grand challenges. We are interested in data generation. In fact, there is now data, and researchers are working with the bridged AI data. There's training and partnerships, as well as understanding the ethical principles as part of creating AI-ready data. One of the other things that's happening, and it's really been propelled by the executive order for artificial intelligence to create safe and trustworthy and secure AI, and that is assurance labs. So CHI, as a partner with us, has stood up over 38 assurance labs. We are one of the 38 assurance labs to really try to understand how can researchers who've never thought about this evaluate and mitigate risk of AI. So when you're developing your codes and your algorithms, partnering with us on an assurance lab to really think about evaluating mitigating risk, as well as providing best practices and guidelines and standards for responsible AI. There's really it appears to be quite a wild west out there in the Gen AI world, and we are asked by the executive order to really think about what are those guidelines for responsible AI, and we're thinking about that broadly at HHS. So what are we doing exactly? Starting this fall, we're working with researchers who are interested in developing AI models and algorithms at any stage, early stage, late stage, to work with us and CHI on evaluating their algorithms and identifying and potentially mitigating any risk that might be identified. So what we hope to get is an understanding of how this looks in this space, so that we can really think of a framework for AI assurance. Okay, I did prepare this because I thought you might be interested in it. Everything I've talked about is really wonderful. It's developing strong data, secure algorithms that have bias detection or risk mitigation built in and baked in with ethical frameworks. But what we need to also think about is workforce. We really need to make sure that we have the people who are going to take over in the future and be our future leaders. So we are planning on 3 different programs. One is for postgrads. It's a KO1 award for researchers who really do want to work in the space of biomedical AI. And the second 2 programs are training programs for PIs who want to train students with course development or hands-on activities. And so these programs will be coming out this spring as funding announcements, and the concepts were approved last May from our Council of Council. So I'm excited to see what happens in this space, and I'm happy to work with all of the institute centers and offices who are going to support this work with us. So speaking of building capacity, I want to tell you a little bit about some of the work we're doing to make sure that all researchers across the United States can participate in our work in artificial intelligence. And moreover, we touch all the different communities that would be impacted by new technologies and AI. AI tends to be somewhat of a bi-coastal activity, and we really want to make sure that we're supporting and strengthening work in California, but also in North Dakota and other places. So this is the aim of Aim Ahead. It is to enhance the participation and representation of researchers and communities in AI with a focus on underrepresented communities. We are focusing on health equity issues with AI, and we want to improve their capacity and their capabilities. It is an all of the country approach. It's a hub and spoke model. The United States has a number of funded hubs. You see them in different color codes here, with the main coordinating hub down in Texas. And it has 4 cores: leadership, of course, research in terms of how can we provide research grants and new research ideas to young or even old investigators, including fellowships from broad spectrum of people, everything from computer scientists who are really interested in working in this space to clinicians who would like to engage in AI and need a fellowship to really think about that. We have training activities. There's an awful lot of training, and training really is everything from middle school all the way up to clinicians. And then there's a component that's infrastructure. And I can tell you that working in diverse communities, there is no one size fits all infrastructure. We have, supported cloud infrastructures. We also support federated approaches. So there's a lot of heterogeneity in the way that researchers want to work with data and with AI. And so we're open to that heterogeneity. Some of the impacts, I'm most proud of the fact that we have over almost about 4,666 members who are part of the AIM Ahead program. 2,655 are mentees. Those are students or postdocs or maybe clinicians, and 1,231 are mentors. They're helping guide our students and their colleagues. And then there's almost 1,400 institutions. We're supporting a number of fellowships as well as consortium projects and institutional capacity building. And most importantly, we are partnering with other NIH activities, such as the All of Us program, the National COVID Cohort Collaborative program, and as of this year, we are adding into this mix a partnership with Bridged AI, because we want the people who are trainees of AIM Ahead to have the opportunity to use our big platforms, but to get trained on code development, on data acquisition, data harmonization, data mapping, as well as development of AI algorithms. So it's a really good opportunity for us to build that capability across the United States and to leverage our high-profile assets. So there's a number of great opportunities that have come out of AIM Ahead. The one that I really like, and I sometimes have slides on, is the pilot with the middle school kids. Here it's just such a fascinating thing. These are kids who are young teens. They're all from underserved communities, and what tends to happen is that we lose middle school kids in science. We want to keep their attention, keep their enthusiasm, because kids are really enthusiastic about science, and help them remain in the STEM fields, whether they go into AI and code development or whether they go to become doctors or lawyers. We want to keep them engaged. So this is a pilot where we do a lot of code design. It's a hands-on program. They learn Shiny, they learn R, they learn, I forgot the other program. Shoot, my son would do it too. They learn the different coding capabilities, and they work with software developers to actually develop programs like chatbots that they would be interested in using. And at the same time, they learn about AI, and they learn about ethics and bias, and they learn it in a way that they can understand and retain. So it's worth looking at the paper, but it's also just worth reaching out and talking. How do you train people in AI at that age? We do a lot of other activities in AI across NIH. These are just a snippet of some of the things that we've been funding throughout the years, supported by my office, but really across the institutes. A lot of work in AI-ready data sets and a lot of work on training and how do you create data that can be AI-ready, and what do you need to pay attention to when you're thinking about ethical, legal, and social implications of AI. I want to talk a little bit about the backbone of everything we do at NIH, which is our computing infrastructure. And to do that, I have to tell you that we are not the powerhouse of NSF computing or DOE computing. We are the stealthy folks who partner. So partnership with us means we're partnering with Google, AWS, and Microsoft Azure. We partner with them to provide cloud resources for researchers who are interested and who are part of our NIH grant ecosystem. It provides a lot of things such as competitive pricing, but also it provides a lot of professional services like code enhancement. I do an enormous, and you probably do too, an enormous amount of lift and shift from on-prem computing to cloud computing, and it ain't easy for folks who haven't done that before. So we support that lift and shift so that we can get code that is sort of within one lab and running on-prem up into the cloud and out to many users. That is part of our goal. We also support sharing of data in the cloud. We have over 360 petabytes of data. It's probably some of the largest biomedical data that's accessible for researchers. I'm sure that Google or AWS has significant health data, but we have it available for researchers. We're using compute like you wouldn't believe, over 726 million compute hours. We're certainly considered high performance in that sense, supporting a lot of research and a lot of extramural researchers. Some of our programs that we support, of course, all of us, the HEAL program, TopMed, the ANVIL, which you may know about if you're interested in genomics, as well as the Cancer Research Data Commons. I'm sure you're familiar with that. These are programs that are all fully supported by the cloud and by my office. What you may not know is that part of our goal, and certainly my goal, is to make sure that everybody can at least have a sandbox to play in. So I talk a lot to underrepresented communities and colleges and institutions, and there's a lot of uncertainty about the cloud, its cost, and how you work in it. So we have a try before you buy experimental sandbox. You can sign up, get access to the cloud, explore different training modules. We've funded a number of training modules and everything from genomics to imaging processing, so people can look at that. They can bring their own data. It's not a forever thing. You can get access to this for a limited time, and you can explore and you can see if this is something that would be of interest to you. It's also part of NAIR, and I will talk about NAIR in a minute, but just keep this in mind that this platform is part of NAIR. I just want to briefly highlight a number of our big data, AI data initiatives. The National COVID Cohort Collaborative. It's a large COVID data resource. It doesn't just have, actually, I don't think it has genomics, but it has a lot of health data. It also has a lot of data from pharmacies, from CMS, and other types of data. Unfortunately, it also has death index data. But you can get access to this and explore, and do research. There's been a number of AI algorithms developed from this resource, including ways to identify phenotypes for long COVID, which was put out by Melissa Hendel and her colleagues. There's MIDRIC, the Medical Imaging Data Resource Center. This is a fairly large and very well curated set of mostly radiology images, lungs, heart, other organs. The data is high quality, it's well harmonized, it's tested to be AI ready, so you can see the number of studies that are released to the public. Because it is curated fairly highly, the number of studies that are there is not the same as the number of studies that are released. It's much lower released, but we're going through the process of the harmonization. A number of publications coming out from the MIDRIC, supported by NIBIB. And there's IMPORT, long-standing immunology database supporting AI development and data reuse. There's tons of different types of data, everything from molecular biology to epidemiology. So just another really great resource. And there's the SHARE data resource. It's a social determinants of health data resource. It's a cloud-based, federated, population-based data resource. It has a lot of Heme Healthy Equity Action Network data. It focuses on chronic diseases, and it has a number of very well harmonized data within the shared data resource. So just a little bit about it. What we hope to do with SHARE is to really engage researchers who are interested in social determinants of health, who need a little help in using cloud-based resources. There's fairly user-friendly workspaces. There's a lot of collaboratories and training opportunities through SHARE. And it's supported by the Nursing Institute, my office, of course, and the Minority Health and Health Disparities Office. So let me tell you what we're doing across government by telling you about the National AI Research Resource. This is an all-of-government approach, and it's led by NSF, NIH, and DOE lead on the secure platforms for the NAIR. There's both open and secure data platforms and compute. What does the government as a whole want to do to create this federal resource? Well, of course, we want to provide researchers infrastructure to do large language model development. And unless you happen to have a massive compute available to you, a serious foundational model is not going to be in your wheelhouse. You're going to need compute at the order of DOE, or if you're lucky, you can get all the compute at Google. So that's what this is supposed to do, is to provide you those resources. We also provide data. You'll see that from NIH. And now we're providing training and user support because we really do want to spur innovation. We want to increase the number and talented people who can develop and use AI. And of course, we as the US would like to be a lead in AI R&D, and I think that might be the case. So there's a number of ways in which researchers can engage. I hope that somewhere I put the website on this, but we do support researchers to get access to the NAIR, and you get compute for free, and that ain't nothing, because you're going to do a large language model training. You're going to need some serious compute. So, please do let researchers know about this. We are contributing compute, and we're contributing data. We are participating both in open NAIR by supporting the data sets that we know are AI ready, like Import, like Gregurick, like SHARE, and we provide platforms for secure compute. So we are providing the backbone of the N3C and the Gregurick platform that is those are secure enclaves so that you can get access to and use those for free so that you can participate in NAIR. We're also helping with the leads of NSF and DOE on the NAIR software stack. And we are one of the platform leads on the classroom training because we're donating the Cloud Lab for NAIR. We also work with other agencies like DOE on collaborating to advance AI to end cancer. I want to tell you a little bit about some policies because these might be helpful. And the first to note is that we do not let people use chatbots to review grants. There's many issues, but the most important is that the terms and conditions of for example, the chatbot violate our confidentiality requirements because they're keeping your input into the chatbots and they're retraining it on that, and so that is not cool. So you can't use Bard, you can't use ChatGPT or any of the other online chatbots to review grants. The executive order for the safe, secure, and trustworthy development of artificial intelligence calls out a number of activities. We're excited. It called out the NAIR, which we participate in. It particularly called out Aim Ahead, which is an acknowledgement of the importance of this program. And it also called out that we need to enhance education, training, and research in AI. And so that is what we anticipate to do. We have a HHS AI task force. We are developing an HHS AI strategic plan. You can see that it will be live, if all goes well, in January. We have the draft done, and we are now socializing that with our agencies such as NIH, CDC, FDA. We want to harness the potential of AI in a safe and equitable way. We want to advance the quality and safety through assurance standards, hence why we're doing the assurance lab. We want to evaluate and deploy appropriate policies as well as new funding opportunities in AI. And we want to, of course, provide public education across our healthcare ecosystem in how we develop and use AI for health and human services. We had everything I told you about is a watershed from the 2019 ACD AI working group. So you saw that we're doing data collection and analysis and reuse in different ways. We're training and attracting and convening people around AI, and we're thinking about ethical and informed representation in AI. We just charged a new committee to the advisory council to NIH to assess the work that we've done thus far, so assess the things that we've talked about, and to help us think strategically about where should we go. For example, we haven't done much strategy in Gen AI. We're doing a little bit of strategy in multimodal AI. We haven't done anything in the edge, and we haven't developed or promoted foundational models in health. Though that's happening because I just showed you one from Google, but we aren't doing it. So we need to really think about this. We also need to understand the privacy, the security, the ethical policies that we don't have that we should, and what is the potential challenges that we might need to think about. And finally, we need to really think about this in our health system. And so I'm going to, because there's not much time, I'm going to skip these. These are just a notice about what's happening in the nation. And just tell you the vision for the future is to really think about bringing data and information together to allow patients to permission their data in ways that make sense to them, and to think about how we can use data across our healthcare sector for AI in a seamless and facile way, such that data can be used across HHS. So we are going with the mantra that we can collect the data in real time, high quality, and use it across HHS for different things such as cancer surveillance or enhancing oncology models, or even in FDA looking at post-market surveillance. So that's something that we're thinking about and actively working on. There are going to be a lot of opportunities for technical and social and ethical AI. We have been hearing that we need to invest more in synthetic data, also leveraging new technologies such as foundational models, translating data to knowledge. I'm really excited about activities between knowledge networks and generative AI, and that we do need to continue our partnerships with other agencies. So with that, I am going to close. The future is certainly very bright. I'm very glad to be here. I think I'm going to stop sharing and turn it back over to you for any questions that you might want to ask. And let me see. There we go. Okay.
This was so much information. Thank you so much, Susan. Really appreciate this whole overview.
And you can share the slides, by the way. They're for you. Everything is perfectly fine to disseminate.
Thank you very much for that. Yes, I have a copy of your slides, and I'll post it on our team channel and along with the recording of this meeting.
Awesome.
So what do people think? Questions?
I was actually a little bit late, so thank you for your talk, Susan. It's wonderful. You might have covered this at the very beginning, but how are you utilizing cancer registry data and the plan for sort of central reporting to the NIH? There's a lot of work being done around interoperability standards and sending from both of the reporting agencies with SEER, and just sort of curious around sort of that whole strategy.
Oh gosh, I'm so glad you asked, because I've been spending a lot of time working with CDC on the National Program for Cancer Registries, as well as the Cancer Institute on SEER, and what used to be called ONC, but is now called ASTP, which I forgot what that stands for. And what we're working on is USCDI plus cancer. So how could we implement that in ways in which we could evaluate the standard of USCDI plus cancer to collect that type of data in real time, and then use it across both SEER and NCPI. So we are actively working with a few different healthcare providers in order to see if we can actually evaluate the standards, improve them, and then look at real-time collection and transmittal of that data. It's early days. We see some some struggles. I'll tell you one struggle is the path reports. They're not necessarily connected to the HR, and they're not even uniformly integrated. Sometimes they're in PDF, sometimes they're ECAP. They're much more structured. That's a challenge when we want to collect and report on and use that data. So this is something that we're really thinking about.
Yeah, thank you. The real-time challenge is difficult because there's that delay in the registry abstracting out the data to make it discrete, and so figuring out technologies, even having some standard on reporting so you could OCR it out, or even using something in AI to transform that data is sort of an interesting concept. I work with the California State Registry. I sit on their advisory council, and this topic comes up, but it's still in its infancy, and we know that there's a lot of smart people talking about it. But I'm just really interesting on sort of the approach NIH is taking to work with the state. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to follow up because I think this is a really important topic.
Thank you, Midori, for that question. I have a question about the assurance. So in general, finding metrics for evaluation in Gen AI or multimodal AI, it's very complicated, right? Like if we are trying to predict something, we can have a gold standard, and there is like, if it's a binary classifier or something, and if you have gold standard data, you know at least what to compare it against. But when we are asking these more complex questions, then the finding metrics to decide what's right and what's wrong, whether or not things are equitable, all of that becomes much more difficult. So how do you approach that? How do you approach, for example, even to decide whether some algorithms are fair or not? How does this lab work, the assurance lab?
That's something that we're trying to work through. I don't have a good answer because I think we're still working on how do you know that an algorithm is trustworthy? Do we even have, we work a lot on certainty quantification. I'm not even sure we have all the math that we need to actually do this work. So I think this is something that actually needs a lot of community input and a lot of investigation. I don't actually have an answer. I hope that by the time that we're done with the first year of the assurance lab, we'll at least be able to understand what we don't know, but I'm not sure that I even know what I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I think it's still very early.
Yes, thank you very much for that. Yeah, it is a very important issue, but also very ill-defined. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We may have time for one more question or comment.
I have a question, and this was a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. I saw an article the other day that was like talking about the environmental impacts of using AI, which is seemingly to be quite substantial. Are you all taking it into consideration when you're talking about the ethics of AI, the environmental impacts?
We are, and so there actually was a really great article. Gosh, where was it posted? It's probably the one you're thinking of. It might have been in Stat about this because it requires a significant amount of compute, which is an energy draw, which of course may affect climate change, but so does cooling. So it requires a significant amount of cooling for the compute. It also, and this was earlier in the year, when we're creating, most of these are run off of GPUs from NVIDIA and other companies that require rare earth metals in the construction of GPUs. And the supply chain is weak, let me just put it that way. And so we're not even sure that we can get all the compute chips that we would need, and that would take away from other activities. So this is something that the federal government is looking at and thinking about in terms of the impacts of generative AI or training new models in terms of the climate and the supply chain for work. Because I think it's Llama 4's, I think it's been released, I'm not entirely sure, but that is huge. That's a huge language model. We're going to start to see more and more training of large language models, and that will impact where we go in the future. So it used to be that cryptocurrency was the biggest draw on compute, but I think that it might be that Gen AI is the new biggest draw.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much for the presentation, for telling us about all the different programs. And just to let you know, so we rescheduled this meeting today, and I know for sure that some of the people who are regular attendees couldn't attend, and there are also others who often listen to the recordings. So thank you very much. Even apart from everybody who was listening today, I'm sure there are other people who will benefit from what you shared with us today. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you everybody for your attention and for your questions. So we'll see you next time. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.